The massive alien ship Sovereign's Wrath floated in the dark void of space like a metal mountain. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in strange symbols that glowed with soft blue light. Inside the ship's grand throne room, Queen Zarthessa stood 12 feet tall, her scaled skin shimmering green and gold under the crystal lights. She was the ruler of the Zephyrian Empire, and her word was law across 100 star systems. But today, the Queen was angry. "Very angry. Who fixed my armor?" she roared, her voice shaking the metal walls. Her long tail whipped behind her, knocking over a golden statue. "Who dared touch the sacred battle dress of my ancestors?" The alien nobles in the room stepped back. They had never seen their queen this furious. Her yellow eyes burned with rage as she held up pieces of her ceremonial armor. The ancient metal looked wrong somehow. Parts of it were cracked, and strange sparks jumped between the broken sections. High Technician Vextar, the ship's chief engineer, bowed low. His forearms trembled as he spoke. "My queen, we found unauthorized repairs on your armor. Someone tried to fix the quantum matrix without permission." "Tried to fix it?" The queen's laugh was cold and sharp. "They broke it completely. Look at this." She threw a piece of armor at the wall. When it hit, the metal turned to dust. "The trials of supremacy begin in 5 days. Without my armor, I cannot fight. Without the fight, I lose my throne. Without my throne, I die," the nobles whispered among themselves. Everyone knew the law. The queen had to defend her crown in ritual combat every 10 years. She had to wear the sacred armor that belonged to her family for 1,000 generations. The armor was not just decoration. It made her stronger, faster, and nearly impossible to kill. Without it, any challenger could defeat her. "Find who did this," the queen commanded. "Bring them to me. I will make them suffer for what they have done to my family's treasure." 3 levels below the throne room, Marcus Chen was fixing a water pump. The human was thin and tired, with grease under his fingernails and scars on his hands from 3 years of hard work. He wore the gray uniform of a slave with the number 2847 printed on his chest. His dark hair was getting long because the aliens never gave prisoners haircuts. Marcus had been captured when the Zephyrians attacked New Brisbane Colony. He was just a mechanic then, fixing farm equipment and hover cars. Now he was still a mechanic, but he fixed alien machines instead. The work was harder, and the aliens treated him like a smart animal rather than a person. As he worked on the pump, Marcus could hear the queens shouting through the ship's walls. All the human prisoners could hear it. They looked at each other with worried faces. "Someone's in big trouble," whispered Sarah, another human prisoner who worked in the ship's kitchen. "The queen sounds ready to kill someone." Marcus nodded but kept working. He had learned not to get involved in alien politics. It was safer to keep his head down and do his job. But he was curious about what had made the queen so angry. In his 3 years on the ship, he had never heard her lose control like this. The ship's communication system crackled to life. "All maintenance workers report to stations immediately. Security sweep in progress. Anyone found in unauthorized areas will be punished." Marcus finished with the pump and started walking back to his quarters. But as he passed through the lower corridors, he saw something interesting. Burn marks on the walls near the queen's private armory. The metal was twisted in a way he recognized. Someone had used a plasma torch incorrectly, probably trying to cut through quantum-sealed metal. He stopped and looked closer. The burn patterns told a story. Someone had been in a hurry. They had used too much power and held the torch at the wrong angle. Marcus had made similar mistakes when he was learning his trade as a young man. But this was worse. Whoever did this work had no idea what they were doing. "You there, human!" Marcus turned around. A Zephyrian guard was walking toward him, his weapon ready. The alien had red scales and small, angry eyes. "What are you doing here? This area is restricted." "I was walking back to quarters," Marcus said calmly. "I finished fixing the water pump in Section 12. The guard looked at the burn marks on the wall, then back at Marcus. "Did you do this damage?" "No, sir. I can see what happened, though. Someone used a plasma torch without knowing how to control the heat output. They probably damaged whatever they were trying to fix." The guard's eyes narrowed. "How do you know about plasma torches?" "I'm a mechanic. I know tools." Marcus kept his voice steady. He had learned that aliens respected confidence, but they hated arrogance. "Move along," the guard finally said, "and stay away from restricted areas." Marcus nodded and continued walking. But his mind was racing. The burn marks were fresh, maybe a day old. Someone had broken into the queen's armory and tried to repair something. From the Queen's angry shouting, they had failed badly. Back in his small quarters, Marcus lay on his narrow bunk and stared at the ceiling. He shared the room with 3 other human prisoners. They were all asleep, exhausted from their daily work assignments. The ship was quieter now, but he could still hear the Queen's voice echoing through the corridors as she questioned her engineers. Marcus had always been curious about alien technology. During his time on the ship, he had learned a lot just by watching and listening. The Zephyrians thought humans were too primitive to understand their advanced science. They talked freely around human workers, never thinking that the stupid animals might be paying attention. But Marcus was paying attention. He had figured out how many of their systems worked. He had even improved some of them, though he was careful not to let the aliens notice. The water recycling system ran 12% more efficiently because of small changes he had made. The air filtration in the human quarters was cleaner because he had adjusted the flow patterns. The aliens never asked him about these improvements. They just assumed their technology was naturally getting better over time. As he tried to fall asleep, Marcus thought about the Queen's armor. He had seen it once during a ceremony 3 months ago. The metal seemed alive, shifting colors in the light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The armor was clearly more advanced than anything humans had ever built. But broken technology was broken technology, whether it was human or alien. And Marcus had spent his whole life fixing broken things. He closed his eyes and tried not to think about it. Getting involved in royal problems was a good way to end up dead. He had survived 3 years by staying quiet and doing his assigned work. There was no reason to change that now. But as he drifted off to sleep, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about those burn marks and the Queen's desperate voice echoing through the ship. The next morning brought bad news. Marcus learned from the other human prisoners that the Queen's engineers had tried all night to fix her armor. They had failed completely. Some pieces had turned to powder when touched. Others had started smoking and had to be thrown away before they caught fire. "I heard they brought in experts from 3 different planets," whispered Tom, who worked in the ship's communications center. None of them could even figure out what went wrong. Marcus ate his breakfast slowly. The gray nutrient paste tasted like nothing, but it kept him alive. Around him, the other humans talked quietly about the situation. Everyone was nervous. When the Queen was angry, bad things happened to everyone on the ship. "They say she might cancel the trials," said Sarah. "If she can't fight, she has to give up the throne. The whole empire could fall apart." Marcus listened but didn't say anything. He was thinking about quantum-bonded metal and crystalline power cores. The aliens talked about these things like they were magic, but Marcus knew that all technology followed rules. If something was broken, there was always a reason. And if there was a reason, there might be a way to fix it. After breakfast, Marcus went to his assigned work area. But instead of starting his regular tasks, he did something dangerous. He accessed the ship's technical database using a maintenance terminal. It was risky because humans weren't supposed to look at detailed technical information, but Marcus had learned how to access the files without leaving traces. He searched for information about the Queen's armor. Most of the files were restricted, but he found some basic technical specifications. The armor was indeed made from quantum-bonded metal, powered by something called a neural response matrix. It had been built over 1,000 years ago using technology that even modern Zephyrians didn't fully understand. The more Marcus read, the more interested he became. The armor wasn't just a machine. It was almost alive, designed to bond with its wearer and respond to their thoughts and emotions. The quantum bonds that held it together were incredibly complex, but they followed patterns that reminded Marcus of something familiar. He had seen similar patterns in the ship's main computer core. Not the same technology, but the same basic principles, like musical harmony, but made of energy instead of sound. Marcus spent the morning thinking while he worked on routine repairs. By lunchtime, he had made a decision that would either save his life or end it. He was going to talk to the Queen. The other human prisoners thought he had lost his mind. "You can't just walk up to the throne room," Tom said, his eyes wide with fear. "The guards will kill you before you get close." "She's already talking about executing someone for damaging her armor," Sarah added. "If you volunteer, she might decide you're the one who broke it." But Marcus had made up his mind. He cleaned himself as best he could, combed his hair with his fingers, and started walking toward the upper levels of the ship. The first checkpoint was easy. The guard recognized him as a maintenance worker and assumed he had been called to fix something. The second checkpoint was harder. Marcus had to convince the guards that he had urgent information about the Queen's armor. They made him wait while they checked with their superiors. Finally, Marcus stood outside the throne room. The massive doors were made of the same living metal as the Queen's armor, covered in symbols that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. 2 guards stood on either side, each one twice as tall as Marcus and armed with weapons that could cut through steel. "State your business, human," one guard said. "I need to speak with the Queen about her armor. I think I can help." The guards looked at each other and laughed. Their laughter sounded like grinding metal. "You? Help the Queen? You're just a maintenance slave." "I'm a mechanic," Marcus said firmly. "I fix things that are broken. The Queen's armor is broken. Maybe I can fix it." The second guard stopped laughing. "Wait here." 5 minutes later, the massive doors opened. Marcus walked into the throne room and his breath caught in his throat. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered in paintings that moved like windows, showing scenes from across the Empire. And in the center, on a throne made of crystal and metal, sat Queen Zarthessa. She was even more impressive up close. Her green and gold scales caught the light like jewels, and her yellow eyes seemed to look right through him. Around the throne, dozens of alien nobles watched with amusement as the small human approached. "So," the Queen said, her voice like distant thunder, "the little mechanic thinks he can succeed where my finest engineers have failed." High Technician Vextar stepped forward. His 4 arms crossed in disgust. "My Queen, this is insulting. This primitive creature cannot possibly understand quantum mechanics or neural matrix technology. He probably doesn't even know what those words mean." Marcus looked up at the Queen and spoke clearly. "Your Majesty, I've been studying the energy signatures from your armor's storage room. The quantum bonds are failing because someone tried to force repair them without understanding the harmonic frequencies involved." The throne room fell silent. Even the moving paintings on the walls seemed to stop. Vextar's eyes went wide. "How do you know about harmonic frequencies?" "I listen," Marcus said simply. "I watch, I learn. Your engineers have been talking about this problem for 3 days. They say the armor's matrix is collapsed, but I think it's just confused." "Confused?" The Queen leaned forward. "Explain. The armor has been used by 23 queens before you. Each time it learns and adapts, but someone shocked it with crude repair attempts. Now it doesn't know which patterns to follow. It's like—" Marcus searched for words the aliens would understand, like a song that's been mixed up. All the notes are there, but they're in the wrong order. The nobles began to whisper among themselves. Some laughed, but others looked thoughtful. Vextar slammed one of his hands on the floor. "This is ridiculous. This human is making up nonsense words. Quantum bonds don't get confused. They follow mathematical laws, not emotions. Then why can't you fix them?" Marcus asked. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Vextar's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Queen Zarthessa stood up from her throne. When she was standing, she towered over everyone in the room like a giant. "Human mechanic," she said slowly. "Are you claiming that you can repair technology that my finest engineers cannot even understand?" Marcus felt his heart pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "I'm saying I'd like to try, Your Majesty. What you have now doesn't work. What's the worst that could happen?" The Queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the room. She smiled. "Very well, little mechanic, but if you fail, if you damage my armor further, I will have you thrown out of the airlock. Do you understand?" "I understand, Your Majesty." "Good. Guards, take him to the detention cell. Tomorrow we will see if human ignorance succeeds where alien knowledge has failed." Marcus spent the night in a cold detention cell, but he didn't sleep much. His mind was busy thinking about quantum frequencies and neural matrices. He had convinced the Queen to let him try, but now he had to actually do it. If he failed, he would die. If he succeeded, he might change everything. The next morning, 2 guards came to get him. They led him through corridors he had never seen before, past rooms filled with treasures from conquered worlds. Finally, they reached the Queen's private armory. The room was smaller than Marcus had expected, but it felt important. The walls were covered with weapons and armor from the Queen's ancestors. In the center of the room, on a table made of black stone, lay the pieces of the broken armor. Queen Zarthessa was already there, along with High Technician Vextar and several other engineers. They all watched as Marcus approached the table. Up close, the armor was even more amazing than he had imagined. Each piece seemed to glow with its own inner light. The metal was smooth and warm to the touch like living skin, but Marcus could see the problem immediately. The pieces didn't want to be near each other. When he moved one piece closer to another, both of them flickered and sparked. The quantum bonds are completely severed, Vextar said with satisfaction. Even touching the pieces causes energy discharge. It's impossible to repair. Marcus didn't answer right away. He was listening. Not with his ears, but with his hands and his instincts. Every machine made sounds, even if humans couldn't normally hear them. This armor was making sounds too, but they were wrong. Discordant. Like an orchestra where every musician was playing a different song. "Can I have some basic tools?" Marcus asked. "What kind of tools?" the Queen replied. "Nothing fancy. A sonic welder, some calibration equipment, maybe some spare wire from the ship's supplies." Vextar laughed. "Sonic welders? Spare wire?" "This armor was built with technology beyond your understanding. You can't fix quantum-bonded metamaterials with primitive human tools." "Maybe not," Marcus said. "But I can't hurt them any worse than they already are." The Queen considered this. Bring him what he asks for. An hour later, Marcus had his tools. They were simple compared to the advanced equipment the alien engineers used, but they were tools he understood. He had been using similar devices since he was a teenager learning his trade. Marcus started by carefully examining each piece of armor. He didn't use scanners or computers. Instead, he used his eyes and his hands. He touched the metal gently, feeling for vibrations and temperature changes. He held pieces up to the light, looking for patterns in the quantum matrix. "What is he doing?" one of the engineers whispered. "Being primitive," Vextar replied with disgust. But the Queen was watching carefully. She had ruled an empire for 30 years, and she knew how to recognize competence. The human worked with confidence and care, like someone who understood what he was doing. After 2 hours of examination, Marcus finally spoke. "I think I know what happened." "Explain," the Queen commanded. Marcus picked up a piece of the armor's chest plate. "This armor doesn't just protect you, it learns from you. Every time you wear it, it records your thoughts, your movements, your emotions. After 1,000 years, it has memories of 23 different queens." "That is correct," the Queen said slowly. "The armor carries the wisdom of my ancestors." "Right. But someone tried to repair it by forcing new quantum patterns into the old matrix. It's like trying to teach a song to someone by shouting random notes at them. The armor got confused and shut down to protect itself." Vextar stepped forward. "Even if that were true, which it isn't, how would you fix it?" "The quantum matrix cannot be rebuilt. The technology is lost," Marcus smiled. "I don't need to rebuild it. I need to remind it how to sing." He picked up his sonic welder and adjusted the frequency settings, but instead of using it to cut or bond metal, he held it near the armor pieces and created gentle vibrations. The sound was barely audible, like a whisper or a lullaby. Something amazing happened. The armor pieces began to glow brighter. "Impossible," breathed one of the engineers. Marcus continued working, adjusting frequencies and creating harmonic patterns. He wasn't forcing the quantum bonds to form. Instead, he was encouraging them, reminding the armor of its original purpose. "The armor wants to work," Marcus explained as he worked. "It's not really broken. It's just scared and confused. Someone heard it, and now it doesn't trust anyone. I'm showing it that it's safe to come back together." Piece by piece, the armor began to respond. The quantum matrix started to stabilize, and the metal pieces began to remember how they fit together. Marcus worked for hours, using patience and intuition instead of force and advanced technology. "This is impossible," Vextar kept saying. "Quantum matrices don't have emotions. They don't get scared or confused." "Maybe not," Marcus replied, connecting two pieces of the arm guard. "But they do respond to harmonics. And harmonics are just patterns. Fear and confusion are patterns too." The Queen watched in fascination as her ancient armor slowly came back to life. The metal grew brighter and more responsive. The pieces began to attract each other instead of repelling. After 6 hours of careful work, Marcus had assembled most of the armor back into its original form. But there was still one problem. The central power core, the crystal that powered the entire system, remained dark and cold. "I can't fix this part," Marcus admitted. "I don't understand how the crystal works." I can see that it's damaged, but I don't know how to repair it. Vextar smiled triumphantly. You see? The human has failed. Without the power core, the armor is useless. But Marcus wasn't finished thinking. He stared at the dark crystal, turning it over in his hands. It was warm, but it felt empty, like a house with no one living inside. Your Majesty, Marcus said slowly, can you tell me about the original queen, the one who first wore this armor? The queen looked surprised. Queen Valandra I? She was my ancestor, the founder of our empire. Why do you ask? What was she like? As a person, I mean. She was fierce, proud, but also wise and compassionate. She united the warring clans through strength and diplomacy. The armor was made for her specifically, bonded to her life force. Marcus nodded. And every queen since then has added their own memories to the armor? Yes, it is our way. The armor carries the strength and wisdom of all who came before. Then that's the answer. Marcus looked up at the queen with excitement. The crystal isn't broken. It's empty. All those memories, all that accumulated wisdom, it was wiped out when someone tried to force repair the quantum matrix. The armor doesn't remember who it is anymore. The room fell silent. Even Vextar stopped objecting. Can you fix it? The queen asked quietly. Not by myself, Marcus said. But you can. You're the rightful owner. If you touch the crystal and remember your ancestors, remember what this armor means to your family, maybe it will remember too. The queen stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out and placed her hand on the dark crystal. I remember, she whispered. When Queen Zarthessa touched the crystal, everything changed. The dark stone began to glow with soft blue light, just a flicker at first, then growing brighter. The light spread through the armor like water flowing through dry ground. Metal pieces that had been cold and lifeless suddenly hummed with energy. I remember Queen Valandra, the queen whispered, her eyes closed in concentration. I remember Queen Zextara the Bold who conquered the Spiral Nebula. I remember Queen Yilmasa the Wise who ended the Clone Wars. With each name, the armor grew brighter. The quantum matrix was rebuilding itself not through technology but through memory and connection. Marcus watched in amazement. It's working. The armor is remembering who it is. But then something unexpected happened. The crystal's light flickered and dimmed. The queen opened her eyes, looking confused and tired. Something is wrong, she said. I can feel the armor trying to respond, but there's still damage. Deep damage that I cannot reach. Marcus examined the crystal more closely. The light was uneven, with dark spots that seemed to pulse with pain. Your Majesty, can you tell me about the recent battles? What has the armor experienced lately? The queen's expression grew sad. Too much death. Too much violence. In the last 10 years, I have fought 7 wars. The armor has seen countless enemies fall, countless friends die. Sometimes I think it grieves for the lives we have taken. That's it, Marcus said suddenly. The armor isn't just storing memories of queens. It's storing memories of everything they experienced. All the pain, all the loss, all the guilt. The forced repair attempts didn't just damage the quantum matrix. They traumatized it. Vextar, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. You're talking about quantum consciousness. That's impossible. Armor cannot feel trauma. Why not? Marcus asked. You said yourself that this armor bonds with neural patterns. If it can learn from thoughts, why can't it learn from emotions? And if it learns from emotions, why can't it be hurt by them? The queen looked at Marcus with new understanding. You think my armor is suffering? I think it's overwhelmed. 23 generations of queens, thousands of battles, millions of memories, and no way to process them. It's like... Marcus struggled to find the right words. Like a soldier who has seen too much war. The armor needs help dealing with what it has experienced. How can we help a suit of armor deal with trauma? The queen asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he smiled. The same way we help anyone deal with trauma. We give it time to rest and remember the good things too. He picked up his sonic welder again, but this time he adjusted it to create different frequencies. Softer ones, calming ones. Like the sound of wind through trees or waves on a beach. What are you doing now? Vextar demanded. Building a meditation circuit, Marcus replied. Something that will let the armor process its memories slowly, instead of being overwhelmed by all of them at once. It was delicate work. Marcus had to create new quantum pathways without disturbing the existing ones. He used spare wire and basic electronic components from the ship's supply room, building a simple but elegant solution. The alien engineers watched in disbelief as Marcus attached primitive human technology to their most advanced artifact. It should have been impossible. Human electronics operated on completely different principles than Zephyrian quantum systems. But Marcus understood something the aliens had forgotten. All technology, no matter how advanced, was built on the same basic concepts. Circuits carried information, frequency patterns created harmony, and harmony could soothe even the most troubled mind. "There," Marcus said finally, stepping back from his work. "The meditation circuit is complete. It will help the armor sort through its memories and find peace with them." The Queen placed her hand on the crystal again. This time the light was steady and warm. The armor hummed contentedly like a cat purring. "Amazing," she breathed. "I can feel the difference. The armor is happy." Suddenly Vextar burst into the room with a group of security guards. "Stop this immediately," he shouted. "I cannot allow this human to continue contaminating our most sacred technology with his primitive devices." "Vextar," the Queen said calmly. "The armor is responding better than it has in years." "That's impossible. Human technology cannot interface with quantum systems." "Look for yourself," Marcus said. Vextar approached the armor suspiciously. He ran a scanner over the meditation circuit Marcus had built. His 4 eyes went wide as he read the results. This is impossible," he stammered. "The human's crude circuit is actually improving the quantum matrix efficiency." "But how?" "Because it's not about having the most advanced tools," Marcus explained. "It's about understanding what the system needs. Your technology is incredible, but sometimes incredible problems need simple solutions." To demonstrate, Marcus picked up one of the armor's gauntlets and slipped it over his hand. The metal was too large for him, but it adjusted automatically, shrinking to fit his human proportions. The quantum matrix recognized him as a friend and ally. "The armor trusts me now," Marcus said, flexing his fingers. The gauntlet responded perfectly, amplifying his movements. "It knows I'm trying to help, not hurt." Vextar stared at the human wearing Zephyrian royal armor. It should have rejected him instantly. Royal armor was supposed to bond only with royal blood, but instead it was working perfectly. "How is this possible?" Vextar whispered. "Because the armor doesn't care about royal blood," Marcus replied, removing the gauntlet. "It cares about intent, about connection, about understanding. Your ancestors who built this armor weren't just engineers. They were artists. They built emotion and wisdom into the quantum matrix itself." The Queen nodded slowly. "That is why the armor has been passed down through generations. Not because of our bloodline, but because of our understanding of what it means to rule with wisdom and compassion. And that," Marcus said, "is something that any species can learn, even humans." For the first time since Marcus had met him, Vextar looked thoughtful instead of dismissive. "You have taught me something today, human. Perhaps our species are not so different after all. We're all just trying to fix broken things," Marcus said with a smile. "Some of us use quantum computers and some of us use sonic welders, but we're all trying to make things work better." The Queen stood up and put on her restored armor. It flowed over her body like liquid metal, fitting perfectly and glowing with warm light. She felt stronger than she had in years, but also more at peace. "The trials begin tomorrow," she said. "Thanks to this human mechanic, I will be ready." But Marcus held up his hand. "There's one more thing, Your Majesty. The meditation circuit needs regular maintenance. Someone has to check on it every few days, make sure the frequencies stay balanced. Can your engineers do this?" the Queen asked Vextar. Vextar looked embarrassed. I do not understand how the human circuit works. It uses principles that our science has not explored. Then the human will have to maintain it himself." The Queen decided. "Marcus Chen, I name you Special Advisor for Integrated Systems. You will have access to all technical areas of this ship, and you will be responsible for keeping my armor healthy." Marcus bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I won't let you down." As they prepared to leave the armory, Vextar approached Marcus quietly. "Human," he said, his voice humble. "Would you be willing to teach me about your meditation circuits?" "I have much to learn," Marcus smiled. "I'd be happy to. But I have a lot to learn from you too. Maybe we can teach each other." And for the first time in the history of the Zephyrian Empire, an alien and a human shook hands as equals. The trials of supremacy took place in the great arena at the center of the ship. Thousands of aliens gathered to watch their queen defend her throne against challengers from across the galaxy. The arena was a massive sphere with no gravity, allowing fighters to move in 3 dimensions as they battled. Marcus watched from a special viewing platform, wearing a new uniform that marked him as a royal advisor. Beside him sat other members of the Queen's inner circle, though most of them still seemed unsure about having a human among them. Queen Zarthessa entered the arena wearing her restored armor, and the crowd gasped. The armor shone brighter than anyone had ever seen it before. It moved with perfect grace, responding to the Queen's thoughts and emotions as if it were part of her body. But more importantly, it looked happy. The quantum matrix hummed with contentment and confidence. The first challenger was Lord Krixvar, a massive warrior from the Outer Rim worlds. He wielded energy weapons and wore modern combat armor that could deflect most attacks. He was confident that age had weakened the Queen, and that his superior technology would give him victory. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The Queen moved like liquid lightning, her restored armor anticipating every attack and amplifying every movement. When Krixvar fired his energy weapons, the armor simply absorbed the power and redirected it back at him. When he tried to grapple with her in close combat, the armor's enhanced strength made her unstoppable. But it wasn't just the armor's power that won the fight. It was the harmony between Queen and machine. For the first time in years, the armor was truly working with her instead of just for her. It offered tactical suggestions through gentle mental nudges, warned her of attacks she couldn't see, and even provided emotional support during the more difficult moments. When Krixvar finally yielded, the crowd erupted in cheers. But Marcus noticed something else. The Queen wasn't breathing hard. She wasn't exhausted. The armor was actually giving her energy instead of draining it. The second challenger was Lady Zilthara, a master of psychological warfare who used mental attacks to confuse her opponents. She had defeated 3 previous queens using these techniques, but when she tried to invade Queen Zarthessa's mind, she found something unexpected. The armor was protecting the Queen's thoughts, but not by blocking them. Instead, it was sharing the mental strength of 23 previous queens. Zilthara found herself facing not one mind, but an entire dynasty of royal wisdom. She surrendered after 10 minutes, overwhelmed by the combined willpower of 1,000 years of leadership. The third and final challenger was Prince Vecthorn, the Queen's own nephew. He was young, strong, and ambitious. He also knew all of the Queen's fighting techniques, having trained with her since childhood. This was the battle everyone had been waiting for. The fight began with both combatants circling each other cautiously. Vecthorn wore modern armor that was faster and more agile than the Queen's ancient suit. For the first few minutes, it seemed like he might actually win. But then the Queen's armor did something amazing. It began to adapt to Vecthorn's fighting style in real time, learning from each exchange and adjusting its responses. The ancient armor was remembering techniques from previous battles, combining them with new strategies to counter every attack. More importantly, the armor was teaching the Queen. Through the neural link, it shared combat knowledge from all of her ancestors. She found herself using fighting moves she had never learned, speaking battle commands in languages she didn't know, drawing on wisdom accumulated over centuries. The final exchange was beautiful to watch. Queen and armor moved as one perfect entity, neither fully alien nor fully machine, but something greater than either could be alone. Vecthorn fought bravely, but he was facing not just his aunt but the entire legacy of their bloodline. When he finally yielded, the young prince bowed deeply. "I am honored to have fought against the combined wisdom of our ancestors," he said. "You have earned your throne once again, my queen." The crowd's cheering could be heard throughout the ship. Queen Zarthessa had not just won the trials, she had dominated them in a way that hadn't been seen for generations. After the ceremony, the Queen met privately with Marcus in her armory. "Your meditation circuit worked perfectly," she told him. "The armor and I are more connected than ever before. I felt my ancestors fighting beside me." "I'm glad it helped," Marcus replied. "But I have a confession to make. The circuit is still experimental. I'm not sure how long it will last or if it might need adjustments over time." The Queen smiled. "Then you will simply have to stay and maintain it. I am offering you permanent citizenship in the Zephyrian Empire, with full rights and privileges. You will be my chief engineer for integrated systems." "That's very generous, Your Majesty, but I have a different proposal." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "Oh? I want to start a school. A place where humans and aliens can learn from each other. Your engineers are brilliant, but they think about problems in only one way. Human engineers are creative, but we don't understand advanced technology. Together we could solve problems that neither species can handle alone. The Queen considered this. What would you need for such a school? A workshop, some basic equipment, and permission to teach both humans and aliens. I think you'd be surprised what we can accomplish when we combine alien knowledge with human creativity. And in return, I'll maintain your armor personally. I'll teach your engineers about harmonic frequency repair, and I'll help solve any other impossible problems you might have. The Queen laughed. Impossible problems? I like the sound of that. 3 months later, the first integrated engineering academy opened in a converted cargo bay of the Sovereign's Wrath. The student body was small at first, just a dozen humans and aliens working together on basic projects. But word spread quickly throughout the Empire about the amazing things they were accomplishing. The Academy's first major success was fixing the ship's main computer core, which had been running slowly for years. Traditional Zephyrian engineers had tried upgrading the hardware, but the problem was actually in the software architecture. A human programmer named Lisa worked with a Zephyrian quantum specialist named Mortek to completely redesign the system. The new core ran 50% faster and used half as much power. The second success was even more impressive. A joint human-alien team designed a new type of medical scanner that could detect diseases weeks before symptoms appeared. The device combined human understanding of biological systems with alien quantum sensing technology. It was already saving lives throughout the Empire, but Marcus's proudest achievement was simpler. He taught Vextar how to repair quantum matrices using harmonic frequencies, and Vextar taught him the mathematical principles behind quantum bonding. Together, they developed new repair techniques that worked better than either species had ever achieved alone. I was wrong about humans, Vextar admitted one day as they worked together on a damaged power core. I thought intelligence meant having the most advanced technology, but real intelligence is knowing how to use whatever tools you have to solve the problem in front of you. And I was wrong about aliens, Marcus replied. I thought your technology was like magic, too advanced for humans to understand. But it's just engineering taken to the next level. We can learn it and we can improve it. As Marcus watched his students working together, humans and aliens sharing ideas, solving problems and building friendships, he felt proud of what they had accomplished. The Academy was growing every month with new students arriving from across the Empire, but the best part was seeing Queen Zarthessa herself attending lectures. She came to learn about human engineering principles, but also to show her subjects that cooperation was better than domination. You have changed our empire, she told Marcus one evening as they watched a mixed group of students celebrating the completion of their latest project. Not through conquest or force, but through understanding and respect. We changed it together, Marcus corrected. Humans and Zephyrians working as partners instead of masters and slaves. The Queen nodded. Perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. When species work together as equals, there is no problem too difficult to solve. As Marcus looked out at the stars through the Academy's windows, he thought about how far he had come. 3 years ago, he had been just a captured mechanic, fixing alien machines and trying to survive. Now he was helping to build bridges between worlds, teaching friendship across species lines, and proving that the best solutions came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the most advanced technology in the universe was simply the willingness to listen, to learn, and to help each other fix the things that were broken, and there was always something that needed fixing.